Hey, a bunch of fucking separatist wackos. How you doing? Feeling good about yourselves? You're an embarrassment to this country.
I think the idea of separating is just a crackpot idea. To become a landlocked province with no coastal access, losing all of our trade agreements, having to build our own military.
54? This is what we think of you. You're garbage like that.
Oh boy. The enemies of Alberta Independence are out in full force today. They sound a little pissed about the whole thing, don't they? But hey, I told you this was coming, didn't I? The more they realize Albertans are not bluffing and that we're serious about pursuing our freedom, the more unhinged they'll become. Expect worse to come from those people. I know I do.
I'm an Albertan, and I unequivocally reject the idea of separation. Why won't Danielle Smith say the same?
Hey, Alberta. Hey, a bunch of fucking separatist wackos. How you doing? Feeling good about yourselves? You're an embarrassment to this country. Everything you have, everything that you have enjoyed, cherished, and benefited from comes from being part of one of the greatest countries on the planet. You guys have your heads so far up your asses that you obviously can't see what pricks you are. The way you are treating indigenous people, the way you are treating your fellow citizens, your fellow Canadians, you guys are a bunch of creepy little pricks. Alberta will never separate from Canada. It's never going to happen because people like me are going to stand up, throw their shoulders back, and keep fucking yelling. And keep standing up for what I know is right. And what you guys are doing is...
Well, someone forgot to take her medication today. This is why I believe public shaming should make a comeback in our society. I mean, the potty mouth on this broad, and at her age, this woman could easily be somebody's grandma. Who am I kidding? She's probably the town's lonely cat lady. But still, what are you, like 65, 70 years old? And here you are talking like you're some high school girl struggling with puberty? Seriously, we should all shame people who don't act their age. The world will be a better place for it. Now, let's dig for the half argument she made somewhere within that hate-filled, profanity-ridden rant. She's saying Albertans should be grateful for what Canada does for us, right? Well, I guess we should be thankful for having billions of dollars taken from our province every year to subsidize the rest of the country, while that same country blocks our ability to generate the wealth they feel entitled to take from us. Yes, we should absolutely thank you all for that. Not to mention the fact that Alberta is grossly underrepresented in Parliament, the Senate, and the Supreme Court. But hey, it's all good, and we should be thankful. The irony of this whole thing is how she says Alberta is never going to separate, while at the same time insulting Albertans. That's just how entitled and delusional these creatures are. Keep it coming, though. Every time one of you opens your filthy mouth, the more signatures we collect for Alberta separation.
Also passed a law that will allow referendum on separation. Alberta businesses leaders say that even talking about separation is scaring away potential investment. At ATCO's annual shareholders meeting, the energy company's leadership team spoke at length about first quarter headwinds like tariffs and the unpredictable market. ATCO's CEO says the threat of Alberta separation may be the biggest problem. She believes such talk makes it hard to convince international partners to invest in large-scale energy projects here in Alberta.
If we're going to have a separate province, are our Japanese partners or our South Korean partners wanting to invest in a multi-billion-dollar plant in the heart of Alberta and say, well, what are the rules going to be? Who's going to trade with us? How do we get to Tidewater? How do we get our product to our country? They are very concerned.
She says she is optimistic about some of the new faces in Ottawa, especially the Prime Minister, who she believes has an economic record that proves he can help Canada become the energy superpower that it's hoping to be.
Follow the money. That's what you have to do every time one of these CEOs comes out against something they have zero knowledge about. Her company, ATCO, receives multiple federal grants from the Canadian government. No wonder she wants to keep things the way they are. It works for her and her company, even if it doesn't work for everyday Albertans. Interesting how she says she's optimistic about Mark Carney's economic record. The British will have something to say about that.
A rallying cry from First Nations chiefs as they fight Alberta separation. Hundreds coming together at the steps of the legislature Thursday afternoon to deliver a united no.
I want to respectfully remind the Premier that this land that we stand on today is treaty land and is not yours to take or make sweeping decisions about. This is a violation of our treaty, a threat to peace and friendship we agreed upon.
Earlier in the day, the Onion Lake Cree Nation told the world they are taking it to the courts.
This is based on precedent. This is based on the constitutional section that we do have those Aboriginal rights, and they precede the Constitution.
Onion Lake first announced intentions to sue in 2022, but its legal team says that process was stayed pending an election and a hope that Alberta would have a change of heart.
Honourable Ms. Smith.
For some, those hopes died late Wednesday with the passing of Bill 54. Once in effect, it will lower the number of signatures needed to trigger a referendum, including one on separation, from about 600,000 Albertans to 177,000.
The Chiefs were clear. They want Bill 54 scrapped. As Chief Tucker stated, it's garbage.
Alberta's Indigenous Relations Minister acknowledged the Chiefs' fierce objections to Bill 54. Later, Rick Wilson joined his caucus mates in voting for an amended version, which says no referendum will violate treaty rights.
I've become great friends with them, and to understand that they're hurting right now, it makes me hurt, and I want to work with them.
But this chief says the Justice Minister's last-minute non-derogation clause means nothing to him.
People are tired of the rhetoric. They're tired of the direction where we can see it going, and not being included in some of those discussions. We feel like we're second-class citizens in our own country.
This is why you never capitulate to people who have their own agendas. The Alberta government added an amendment to the law to reassure the Indigenous leaders that the treaties will be respected by an independent Alberta after a referendum, which wasn't even necessary because the Supreme Court already ruled that First Nations are supposed to get a seat at the table during independence negotiations. But they clearly don't care. They know who signs their paychecks, and that's all they're worried about.
Alberta's Premier says she wants the province to stay in Canada, but will respect the results of a referendum.
You know what, I think, though, if you want a meaning relationship, that she has to repeal that bill.
To quote a line from the treaty's chiefs are resolute. They will oppose separation as long as the sun shines, the grass grows, and the rivers flow.
Alberta or any other province out there can't separate from Canada. It's Indigenous land. It's our land. It's unconstitutional. And
first of all, my guy, I appreciate everything you're doing at Frog Lake First Nation, exposing the corruption. But we got to get real here. Indigenous land rights don't tie Alberta to Canada. They exist regardless of what flag flies over the territory. If Alberta separated tomorrow, treaties wouldn't vanish and Indigenous sovereignty would still be recognized. In fact, a sovereign Alberta could offer more direct partnership with First Nations than Ottawa ever has. Let's not pretend the federal government has been some shining example of Indigenous respect. It's been the opposite. Sovereignty for Alberta doesn't erase Indigenous rights. It opens the door for a better, more accountable relationship. And before everybody spouts off, this guy has no clue what he's talking about. He's just some white guy. Yeah, have a great day.
All right, thanks for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Special thanks to those of you who have donated to this project. It is much appreciated, and it helps me continue making videos. See you on the next one. Peace.